Welcome to our section on interview techniques and interview skills. I'm joined today with Mashkura Begum from Legacy West Midlands. What are you going to teach us today?
Okay, I'd like to share with you today some of the tips, really, the challenges, the successes we've had when we were interviewing for the Old Wives' Tales. Clearly, a project like the Old Wives' Tales, and indeed Grandma's Story, it's not as easy as it seems in terms of interviewing the grandmas. And I think it's really important for the people that are going to undertake the interviews to understand some of the skills that is required to get at the best stories from the grandmas. So hopefully during the course of today, this discussion, we'll talk about some of the the things that we've found really helpful.
Okay.
And some of the things that we avoided during the interviews. Yeah?
Excellent. It's just what the young people need to know.
Brilliant.
So, where do we start?
Okay, so I think a really good starting point would be preparation and planning. I think the key to a good interview, as anybody would know, it's preparation and planning. More so when it comes to grandmas, because you're actually going into somebody's personal space and trying to elicit from them, take out from them stories that might be quite emotional, part of their memory, their journey. So it's really important that you go into the interview with an open mind, with the attitude that you want to listen, and also ask the right questions. Have a set questions, 10 or 12 questions that you are planning on asking during the interview. It may happen that during the interview you may only ask 5. You may not need to ask any questions. The grandmas are going to be quite open and going to be discussing various aspects of their life. But it's really important that you have a script at hand, because when you're in a interview setting, things might just go out of your head and you're going to be blank. So really important to have a piece of paper with all the questions that you're going to be asking. So whilst I was doing the Old Wives' Tales, I ensured I had my questions in front of me. So it helped me throughout the interviews. I mean, I asked from the script 5 or 6 set questions, but what I found was when I got into the discussions, the grandmas were really willing to, share with me anecdotes or events without sort of, me having to go through all my questions. So it's really important that you prepare for the interview. One of the other things that we did as a team, myself and my colleague Aftab, who sort of supported me in this project, was talk to some of the family members of the grandmas. What that enabled me to do is understand different aspects of the grandmas, because you have to appreciate some of the grandmas, were in their sort of late 70s, 80s. Their memory is not as sharp as it used to be, so they may not remember key events or things that happened in their life, which for the audience, us, it's really interesting. So by having conversations with family members or friends, you could actually find out a bit more about the grandmas. And if you feel during the interview those aspects haven't come out, you could give them a bit of a nudge, a probe. So that's why we felt it was really important to do some of that preparation, so some of that background work, to get the best interviews. So preparation is key to getting the best stories. I think what's really important is, for us with the grandmas, Old Wives' Tales, it was straightforward in the sense that all the grandmas we interview were from the Bangladeshi origin. So being a Bangladeshi myself, I was familiar with the culture, the language and so forth. So I didn't have to do that much homework in terms of understanding the culture. Whereas with grandma stories, you may be interviewing a grandma who's from Nigeria. So you may not know much about the Nigerian culture. So what I would sort of really advise you to do is go and do a bit of background on the basic cultural nuances of, somebody from Nigeria. That would help you understand, where they're coming from, and also build a rapport straight away. So whilst you're interviewing, if they talk about a type of, vegetable or dish from Nigeria, chances are, if you've done your background, you'll understand. And if you even giving that affirmative confirmation during your interview, a nod or a smile, or sort of the recognition that you know what they're talking about, that puts your interviewee at ease. So it's really important that you sort of, take the time out. I know it's really difficult when you've got a number of interviews to do, but sometimes just that little bit of, effort really will help you get the best out of the grandma. So a bit of background research on the grandma you're sort of interviewing, talking to the family members, if possible, if you're able to do that. Ensuring the space where you're going to be interviewing is comfortable. So like today, this is a fantastic space. Just ensuring that the space is clear. So what you don't want to be doing is during the interview, you don't want to be sort of faffing around trying to find a space, because that really unnerves the person you're going to be interviewing you. Because you could imagine, when you're interviewing somebody, they're quite anxious anyway, because you've got all these sort of lights, cameras, microphone attached to them. So you want to minimize all that. So make sure you do all your setting up preparation as discreetly and as quickly as possible. While somebody is setting up the camera, you use that time to build that rapport.
Mm-hmm.
So within that 10, 15, half an hour time, setup time. Because what I found, especially with the old wives' tales, if we had gone and met them and then gone back again to interview, they probably would have said no, because they would have seen the cameras or would have said cameras. So I think that spontaneity is quite important. But if you feel your grandmas, if you know them from other projects and you feel it won't put them off, then by all means spend that bit of time beforehand. And but I wouldn't advise you to do a mock interview, because it takes the spontaneity away.
Okay. So that's what we're after, isn't it?
Because you want that, and you want the natural stories. I think the spontaneity and the authenticity is when they're having a discussion and not think too much about what they're going to be saying. I think as the interviewer, you really need to know your script well, because if you're nervous, that comes across, and then your interviewee will feel your nerves and understand and sense your nerves. So make sure you understand your script really well.
That's a very, very valid point, because it's all about the spontaneity and getting grandma to answer to questions that you hasn't thought about before. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to practice your interview techniques beforehand with your team, so you know what you're going to do on the day. So that's really good. So yeah, meet the family, get stories that you can ask which will really engage grandma, and be spontaneous. So possibly don't give her the script, you'll just have to judge that on your own merits. Tell us what happens on the day of the interview then.
So on the day of the interview, you go into the venue, whether it's the grandma's house or they come here to the studio to be interviewed. So you ensure they're comfortable. So like I came in today, I was offered a drink. So ensure they're offered that, and give them a bit of a background in terms of, I think what's really exciting for interviewers is to understand where the interview is going to go, how it's going to have an impact. They really appreciate that. If you're sort of saying it's a tool, archiving their stories, it's going to be shared amongst people, and it's capturing some of their life journey for future generation. You'll be surprised how forthcoming they are. The thing that I've said to everybody is it's a conversation, it's not an interview. So say it's a conversation, just how you talk to, obviously the interviews are going to be done by young people. The one thing that is really endearing for some of these grandmas is when if you say to them, just think of me as your grandson or your granddaughter, instantly it'll change the dynamics. So that kind of language really helps when you're interviewing.
Absolutely, yeah.
And just the way we're sitting, you may choose to do it in that kind of a format. Then they totally forget the camera, or you may want to sit in a chair and they're talking to you. Just make sure the camera's angled at them. So your position and the way they're seated, it's quite important. So make sure they feel comfortable on the day of the interview.
So we sit down, we're comfortable, the interview's about to start. So do you have leading questions to get them relaxed?
Yeah, I think the first couple of questions is just a warm-up. So we kickstart the interview by asking their name, asking them a bit about their childhood, because usually that brings a smile on their face and they start sort of thinking back to their childhood. So those we call warm-up questions. Once you've asked one or two questions, you'll know your interviewee quite well. You'll know whether they will need probing. Some of the interviews it's quite difficult to elicit questions, answers, or facts out of them without asking a lot of questions. But often what we found was once you ask them the right question, they'll come out with really, really interesting points. So if you've got your script in front of you, don't feel shy to stick to your script and ask those questions. Yeah.
But it's also important, is it, to listen to what Grandma is saying, because she may say something that's not on the script and you want an explanation. You, oh, that sounds a good soundbite. Can we explore that? So listen to what she's saying, and when she finished, then you can go back and ask her to expand on that.
I'll share an experience with you. During the old wives' tales, one of the grannies spoke about the Great Famine in Bangladesh. And that's all she spoke about. And it was fascinating because, you know, we heard about the famine in history books. She was a young girl then, so she obviously heard her parents talking about it. But she spoke about how it impacted on the whole village. So that was a really interesting sort of, you know, aspect that she spoke about. So I probed her a lot into that, how she felt as a young person whilst that happened, what impact that had on her friends. You know, she couldn't go to school during that period, so how she felt. So that was really, you know, quite a profound story that she shared with us. So it's you know, occasions like that where it's not in the script and you have to allow them to sort of come with those stories.
So how long should the interview last? Because these women tend to might get tired quite quickly.
If you sort of keep it within 25 to 30 minutes, that's fairly long. You know, because don't forget, you have to transcribe that. So, you know, it could be a lot of sort of, you know, writing for you to do. But having said that, you have to appreciate that some of the aunties may take a bit long because they need to pause, stop, and so forth. So what I would advise you is, you know, don't go in with a set time in mind because you don't want to rush them. Play by ear with each individual interview. You know, that's what I would suggest. But again, some of the, you know, interviews that I did, you know, towards the end they waffled on quite a bit.
Yes.
So, you know, that's why it's important that you try and keep your questions tight. Or if you feel they sort of, you know, digressing too much, then pull them back in, you know, in a polite way. So that's important.
After the interview then, what's the procedure for winding up and thanking Grandma?
So again, once the discussion, the conversation sort of comes to an end, take the time to thank Grandma, tell her that she did really well, you know, you really enjoyed listening to her story. Again, make sure she feels relaxed, and again, sort of reiterate where her story is going to go. That's really important.
Right.
And what we sort of said to all the grandmas was, we'll be happy to do, once we do the write-up, to send it to them with any pictures we took of her during that interview. Because what we found was some of the grannies said in the past they've been interviewed by folks, but they never saw what happened to it. So, you know, sort of say, you know, this is where your interview is going to be going. And if you want to, we'll be more than happy to send you the write-up and the pictures we've taken today of you. So that's really important. One of the points that I missed out was during the interview, as part of the preparation, we asked the grannies to bring objects with them that sort of, you know, had a emotional attachment,
right,
or part of their childhood, you know, with them. So we could either take a picture of it and include it in the write-up, you know, and quite a few did do that, and also old photographs. So again, that was really interesting. The aunties, when they brought out the old photographs, some of them had things like their old passport. So that was again a really nice discussion point during the interview, because I was looking through the passport or some of the artifacts that they had. So, you know, it just made the whole interview really natural. And again, we were able to take some really great shots of the objects, of the passport photo, and include it in the publication. So that again it's really useful.
So you may want to do as well, take shots of the cutaways and actually have that in your footage as Granny is narrating or talking, and may you want to emphasise a point to reinforce that. You could just put a cutaway of her talking about a particular family member or an photograph she has about a funny incident that she had. You could just do that. It's
not a necessity as part of the interview, but it just adds you know, another dimension to the interview to have something like that.
And for filmmaking purposes, it makes it more interesting overall, rather than just be looking at Granny all the time. You have something else to look at and you can listen to what she's saying.
Yes, yeah.
So after the interview, so we've thanked Granny, we've photographed all the objects and cut for our cutaways, and so when we're going to tell her exactly where it's going to be, it's going to go up to grandma's website and may go somewhere else, and we're going to send her a copy with the transcript as
Absolutely,
well.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, spot on.
Is there any more to add?
I think that's how you sort of, you would sort of, wrap up the interview. I've had incidents where we've switched off the camera and they've said, oh, I forgot to say that. And then it's a judgment call whether you want to capture that point. Where I have actually switched the camera back on, and got a few minutes again of something she sort of the granny said, or the family member came in and said, Mom, did you mention that part? And then she's like, no, I totally forgot. So I did reset the cameras again and just asked her that question.
Well, there's one thing that Mashkura talked about during all this a couple of times, was transcribing. So if you're going to put it up on the website, you will need to have subtitles on your video. So you need to transcribe and have somebody put that onto the video so other people can read it, because it'll be changed into other languages as well. So don't forget, after the interview, transcribe, which means write down everything that you hear in the questions and answers you hear on the interview.
It has to be grammatically correct. That's one thing that part of the oral history is, it's their story, and you're capturing their story, and you're not giving your twist to it.
So you finish the interview, you've gone back home, you've gone back to base. What you need to do is have a debrief or a reflection session. Okay. So first of all, you need to download all your digital files into a safe place, and then you need to sit down and, as a team, talk about how did the interview go. Did it go well? Did it go bad? What were the areas that need improving? You're looking also at what can we do better next time, not just the interviewing side, but also the camera and the audio as well. And basically, what have you learned from the whole experience?